Kurt Top here, and these are 100 discoveries that no one can explain to this day. The Book of Kells is a medieval manuscript kept in the library of Trinity College and is one of the main attractions of Dublin. This manuscript contains the 4 Gospels in Latin and canon tables written on parchment. The book measures 33 by 25 centimeters and consists of 340 pages. It was created at the end of the 8th and the beginning of the 9th century, and research has shown that it had 4 illustrators. A distinctive feature of the manuscript is that each letter has its own unique character, design, color, and meaning, like a secret code that has yet to be deciphered. The book got its name from the Abbey of Kells, where it was preserved from the Vikings in 814. It is believed that work on it began during the lifetime of St. Columba and continued for 2 centuries after his death. Historians offer several theories about the origin of this manuscript. According to one of them, it was created on the island of Iona and later moved to the Abbey of Kells. Another theory says that the writing began on Iona but was completed in Kells. There is also a suggestion that the manuscript was created in England or even in Scotland. Despite the variety of theories, the Book of Kells remains one of the most mysterious and magnificent works of art of the Middle Ages. Faces on the stone. Due to drought in the Brazilian region, the water level in the Amazon River has reached a record low. This led to the discovery of faces and other figures engraved on an ancient stone, which is more than 2,000 years old. These petroglyphs, including images of animals and other natural forms, were found on the banks of the Rio Negro at an archaeological site known as Ponto das Lajes, the place of slabs. Researchers estimate that the drawings are between 1,000 and 2,000 years old. On the stones, in addition to images of faces and water, there are also grooves indicating that the place was used for making stone tools. Archaeologists discovered 25 groups of engravings on a single rock. The finding indicates that this place was used for sharpening various tools. In addition, pottery shards were found at this site. Although Ponto das Lajes is recognized as an archaeological monument, the petroglyphs have not yet been studied. What other secrets do you think the Amazon hides? Share your thoughts in the comments. Researchers have deciphered the Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript has been intriguing scientists and cryptographers for more than 600 years. This document, filled with encrypted text and unusual illustrations, gives rise to many hypotheses, from magical spells to obscene texts. But researchers from Macquarie University have concluded that the content of the manuscript is not only decent, but also contains information that, in the early 15th century, was not meant for everyone. Dr. Keegan Brewer, the lead author of the study, claims that the manuscript is a medieval guide to gynecology, including information about sex, contraception, and the treatment of gynecological diseases. The encrypted nature of the text suggests that access to this information was deliberately restricted to a certain group of female readers, which is a vivid example of gender censorship. The manuscript contains numerous illustrations depicting plants, animals, and people, but researchers were particularly drawn to the drawings of naked women pointing to their genitals. These images clearly hint at the gynecological focus of the text. Women's secrets, as women's health was called in the Middle Ages, were strictly censored despite active interest. The patriarchal culture of that era feared the female body and its functions, which was reflected in the medical texts of the time. One of the largest and most mysterious illustrations, known as the rosettes, may symbolize the commonly accepted views on sex and contraception of that time. According to the beliefs of that time, the uterus consisted of 7 chambers, and the vagina had 2 openings. Perhaps the 9 circles in the illustration symbolize these anatomical details. Thus, the Voynich manuscript may not simply be a title, a set of meaningless symbols, or a joke as some have suggested, but an important historical document revealing approaches to women's health in medieval Europe. The Gobi Astronaut. In 1834, in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, the famous English explorer and cartographer Charles Edwin discovered a mysterious cave in a cliff face. Inside the cave was a skeleton of unusually large size, almost 5 meters long, with a proportionally enlarged skull and curved ribs. Next to the skeleton were metal objects, heavily distorted by corrosion, But one object attracted the scientists' attention: a stone slab with a map of the starry sky and markings that did not correspond to known star systems. According to Edwin, the slab is not just an artifact, but a tool for navigation or part of an ancient astronomical device. Interestingly, studies have shown that the material of the slab contains rare terrestrial elements that are not typical for the region where the cave was found. This has led to speculation about the possible extraterrestrial origin of both the slab itself and the creature whose remains were lying nearby. Further study of the stone slab revealed that the cartographic markings on it could have been used for navigation in outer space, suggesting that the creature might have been a pilot or explorer from a distant star system. Scientists suggested that the creature's death might have occurred as a result of its ship crashing, with parts of the vessel possibly scattered across the desert and buried under layers of sand for centuries. This discovery remained little known due to political and scientific disputes about the origin and significance of the artifacts found. However, it continues to spark debates among scientists and adventurers who seek to uncover the mysteries of ancient civilizations. African rock art is an invaluable heritage that highlights the richness and diversity of the continent's cultures. From the South African sand drawings to the mysterious images of Tassili in North Africa, rock art reflects a history spanning thousands of years. The Sahara is home to some of the oldest examples, dating back to the end of the last ice age, about 12,000 years ago. Images of antelopes, giraffes, and other animals testify to the rich wildlife of that time. Mysterious symbols and figures that combine features of animals and humans continue to intrigue scientists. In Central Africa, in the area inhabited by the Pygmies, geometric rock art predominates, testifying to the ancient culture of these peoples. In East Africa, in Tanzania, rock art consisting of animals and humans resembles the traditions of the San, but has its own unique features. In the south, beyond the Zambezi River, lies the land of the San, where art dates back to the most ancient times. The sand rock paintings, reflecting the spiritual journeys and rituals of shamans, are among the most exquisite and symbolically rich examples of world art. This heritage needs to be protected and preserved for future generations, so that we can continue to draw inspiration, inspire others, and tell the story of humanity's past. Engraving on a knife. Archaeologists in Denmark have discovered a runic inscription on a knife dating back almost 2,000 years, which they believe to be the oldest runes in the country. The inscription was engraved on an 8-centimeter iron knife found in a grave under an urn near the city of Odense on the island of Funen. The inscription consists of 5 symbols about half a centimeter high and 3 grooves, forming the word Kurila, which in Old Norse means little sword. This find and a previously discovered bone comb are the oldest runic inscriptions ever found in Denmark. Jakob Bonde, curator of the Odense City Museum, and the archaeologist who made this discovery, initially thought it was an ordinary knife. However, after cleaning it with chemicals, it became clear that it contained tin. It's like receiving a note from the past. This is an exceptional find for us, and speaks to the development of the early Scandinavian language. The inscription probably refers to the name itself, not its owner, about whom nothing is known. This knife is 800 years older than the Jelling stones in Jutland, one of which King Harold Bluetooth in 965 commemorated his parents. A new Roman dodecahedron. In England, amateur archaeologists have discovered a unique dodecahedron from the Roman era. This find, made in a farmer's field in Lincolnshire, is a 12-sided metal figure about the size of a grapefruit. It was found during excavations where Roman coins had previously been discovered thanks to metal detectors. Finding a fully intact dodecahedron, especially one larger than normal, surprised the excavation participants. More than 100 similar dodecahedrons have been found across northwestern Europe, dating from the 1st to the 3rd centuries AD. Usually made of bronze, they have holes of different sizes on each face and spikes on the corners. The purpose of these objects still remains a mystery for scientists. There are hypotheses that these could have been dice, mace heads, sling stones, range finders for Roman artillery, or even objects for divination. Mysterious objects that are 130,000 years old. Archaeological discoveries in the area of Raciborz in Poland have shed light on the activities of Neanderthals more than 130,000 years ago. For 2 years, an international team of specialists, including those from the University of Wrocław and the University of Silesia, as well as the Czech Academy of Sciences, conducted research, planning to study the geological structure of the area. Professor Andrzej Wisniewski noted that the discovery of stone tools was an unexpected gift. Artifacts found 10 meters underground, which were in deposits formed during the last ice age, demonstrate that this area was visited by Neanderthals, who left traces of their presence here. Archaeologists emphasize the uniqueness of some tools, which have double-sided asymmetrical cutting edges, resembling modern wide-bladed knives. These tools may have been used for special tasks such as butchering game, and similar items are rarely found at other ancient sites north of the Carpathians and the Alps. Jade Bowls, 1980s Ecuador. Adventurous archaeologist Elias Adamayer sets off deep into the jungle, inspired by stories of a mysterious underground city. The city was never found, but Elias discovered amazing artifacts that glow in the dark, over 18,000 years old, and here they are, forgotten in a corner. 12 bowls and a goblet crafted with incredible precision from hard-to-work jade. Amazing, right? But it gets even more interesting. Each cup perfectly matches the others, and all of them exactly match the volume of the goblet. What if back in those ancient times there were advanced stoneworking machines in Ecuador? And here's the cherry on top. Each cup and goblet depicts a different constellation. Just imagine the level of astronomical knowledge their creators must have had. And all of this could be connected to the legendary city of the Red Sun, which, according to myths, once existed here in Ecuador. Maybe our mysterious artifacts are all that remains of its inhabitants. Secret rooms. So what could be hidden inside the pyramids? There are many theories about this, from religious objects and treasures to ancient scrolls full of knowledge. And some are even convinced that artifacts of cosmic gods could be hidden in the secret chambers of the Egyptian pyramids. Do you remember the story from the 90s when a robot lowered into one of the shafts encountered mysterious doors? The great Greek and Roman scholars of antiquity were fascinated by the pyramid builders' craftsmanship, and medieval Arab chroniclers such as al-Masudi and al-Idrisi wrote about wonders, gold, and mummies that may have been found inside. But not all scholars agree that the pyramids served only as tombs. Proponents of alternative history claim that the Great Pyramid could have been a time capsule, a repository of knowledge from an ancient civilization that became the foundation of ancient Egypt. And there is an even more exotic theory from Christopher Dunn, who suggested that the Great Pyramid could have been nothing other than a power plant. And don't forget about the Hall of Records, the legendary ancient library where, according to some researchers, all the knowledge of the ancients is stored, knowledge that could shake the foundations of our understanding of the world. Ancient Roman giant. In the area near Rome, archaeologists discovered a unique ancient human skeleton with gigantism. Standing at 202 cm tall, the man stood out among his contemporaries of the 3rd century, where the average height was about 167 centimeters. Gigantism is an extremely rare condition, affecting about 3 people per million, and is associated with pituitary gland dysfunction in childhood. Previously, partial skeletons were found in Poland and Egypt, presumably indicating gigantism, but the Roman discovery became the first confirmed case from antiquity. The skeleton was found in 1991 during the excavations of a necropolis in Fidenae under Roman rule. The archaeological team immediately noted the unusual length of the tomb, and later studies confirmed the peculiarities of the bones. Researchers found damage to the skull consistent with a pituitary tumor, as well as disproportionately long limbs and signs of bone growth in early adulthood. The early death of the man, presumably between the ages of 16 and 20, may indicate issues related to gigantism. The skeleton was found without any burial goods, and his burial did not differ from the traditions of that time, which suggests that he was accepted by society. The symbolism of this find highlights the interest of the Roman upper class in people with physical anomalies. the winged mummy. I want to remind you of an amazing story that could be mistaken for the plot of a science fiction movie. But this was the reality of 1914. Imagine, a group of brave merchants set out on a journey across the ocean in search of undiscovered artifacts. And they find it, a glass sarcophagus, just like in a fairy tale. And inside it, miraculously, a sleeping priest named Gomez, straight from the lost city of Atlantis. At the bottom of the ocean, our heroes found other items as well. For example, rods with texts in an unknown language. Scientists were able to decipher them, and now we know that this priest voluntarily went into a long sleep in order to one day return and tell about his lost city. However, there is another interesting point. This is not the only sarcophagus. As the text indicates, there are many of them. And each of the priests wakes up once a century to check if humanity is ready to accept knowledge of great Atlantis. And if we are still not ready, they return to their sleep. And the story becomes even more interesting. The sarcophagus falls into the hands of the Soviet Secret Service, where it begins to be studied thoroughly. And here, something unusual happens. When the leading figures of the country came to see this discovery, they all fell ill. But there is an explanation for this. I have repeatedly said that people get sick because of an infection that thrives alongside mummies. Another sarcophagus was found by Turkish archaeologists. But instead of celebrating their discovery, they ended up in court because the government classified their find. Inside, there was a creature that could have been a human, but it wasn't. It was a creature with huge eye sockets, no nose or ears, and incredibly thin fingers. And wings, my friends, wings. It feels like we're looking at a representative of an alien civilization. The sarcophagus seemed to be made of glass, but in reality, it was incredibly strong and made of an unknown material containing at least 15 different minerals. Incredible, isn't it? How real do you think this story is? Are there really mummies and monks that can wake up once every 100 years? After all, we know of cases where ancient monks use meditation to enter a death-like sleep. However, there are still no recorded cases of anyone waking up from it. Write your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. A human skull that was more than 1 million years old. Chinese archaeologists confirmed that finds like these are real. It is there that similar ancient remains of humanoids have been found more than once. In our case, the authenticity is confirmed by the researcher from the National Museum of Natural History in Paris, Amiale Viale. He confirmed that the skull is perfectly preserved and its age is approximately 1 million years. Chinese archaeologists have determined that the skull belongs to the archaic human species Homo erectus. In addition to the Homo erectus skull, animal fossils were also discovered. Based on all the findings, scientists were able to date the ancient artifacts as accurately as possible. In Yunyang, people lived between 1,100,000 and 800,000 years ago. Experts identified the forehead, eye sockets, as well as the cheekbones and skulls. It's hard to believe, but right now we can see the fossil of a person who lived on our planet more than 1 million years ago. But why have so few of these fossils been found? Or are we not being told about all the discoveries? Why do some remains of ancient humans and animals get preserved, while others turn to dust? In the next videos, I will definitely try to answer these questions. For now, I'll tell you about a unique gold ring from ancient Egypt. Beautiful and mysterious. An archaeological discovery in Norfolk, Eastern England, has attracted the interest of scientists all over the world. A gilded silver object dating back to the late 8th or early 9th century was discovered in Langham, and it has become a subject of debate among historians. This 19.4mm artifact features intricate ornamentation and the image of a stylized animal looking back over its shoulder. The technique used to create it involved mixing mercury with gold powder, which indicates the high level of skill of its makers. The uncertainty of its purpose adds to the mystery of the find, which demonstrates the high appreciation for beauty and elegance of that era. As Helen Geek, Norfolk's finds liaison officer, noted, the item was created with the same care as a piece of jewelry or a religious text. The gold and mercury used in its creation may have been imported from Spain. Geek suggests that the artifact could have been part of a staff. The Norwich Castle Museum has already expressed interest in purchasing this item for its collection, emphasizing its significance and uniqueness. Ancient gates to the afterlife. How about a trip to Mexico, where archaeologists recently discovered an ancient underground temple with a door to the afterlife? Sounds mystical, doesn't it? This story began back in 1674, when the priest Francisco de Burgoa described in his records a giant underground temple in the city of Mitla. According to him, the temple consisted of 4 halls, one of which had a stone door leading into a deep cave. And this, my friends, was not just some ordinary room. This was a place that, according to the beliefs of the ancient Zapotec people, led to the afterlife, called Leoba, or the place of rest. But what happened next? Apparently, the entrance to this cave was sealed by the Spanish, and the temple was destroyed. Now, the Church of San Pablo stands on this site, built literally on the ruins of the ancient temple. Thanks to advanced research methods such as ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity tomography, and seismic noise tomography, archaeologists discovered a large void beneath the church, which appears to be connected to another void to the north. Researchers also found 2 underground passages leading into this void from the east. Moreover, they even managed to discover the location of a blocked entrance to an ancient cave. It seems this story is just beginning, and we have much to learn about the ancient Zapotecs and their beliefs. So subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss the continuation of this fascinating research. Ancient marble disc. The underwater world of the Mediterranean Sea hides not only colorful fish, but also the secrets of ancient civilizations. Israeli diver David Shalom made an incredible discovery near Palmakim Beach. On the seafloor, he found a marble disc that is 2,400 years old. Only 4 such discs are known in the entire world. Ancient ships were decorated with these discs, which served not only as decoration but also as protection against the evil eye. These sea amulets looked like eyes, helping sailors navigate the waters and warning them of possible dangers. This disc has a diameter of 20 centimeters. One side is flat, the other is convex. Most importantly, traces of paint have still been preserved on it. The mystery of the flying stones. India is always shrouded in mysteries and secrets. Anywhere in the country, you can encounter something amazing and incredible. Many people come here for new experiences, to discover unknown spiritual possibilities within themselves. Once you've visited this amazing country, it's impossible to forget it. One of the mysteries of India is the levitating stones in the small village of Shivapur, which is located 200 kilometers from Bombay. Near the local temple, there are several boulders that weigh more than 50 kilograms. According to the locals, these stones can rise into the air. To lift the first heavier stone, 11 men are required. They must stand around it and say certain words. After that, the stone begins to levitate, and it can be supported with just 1 finger. The smaller boulder requires 9 men to lift it. There is also a third stone weighing more than 60 kilograms, which can only be lifted by the monks of the temple. The origin of these stones is mysterious. Some believe that they were sent by the gods. Others think that they broke off from a nearby cliff. A local resident who takes care of the temple claims that the stones crack from time to time, and he replaces them with new ones, breaking them off from the cliff. But even the new stones retain their ability to levitate. Some scientists suggest that ancient people could move objects with the power of their minds. For example, during the construction of the Egyptian pyramids, perhaps knowledge of levitation was lost, but sometimes it resurfaces in places like Shivapur. Interestingly, in the last century, Edward Litzkalnin, an immigrant from Latvia, used similar methods to build his coral castle in Florida. This only confirms the existence of such knowledge. These unexplained phenomena support the hypothesis of extraterrestrial influence on ancient civilizations. It suggests that some technologies or methods may have been passed on to humanity by representatives of other worlds. Egypt is rewriting history. Archaeologists in Egypt have stumbled upon something absolutely astonishing. In Hierakonpolis, an ancient city on the banks of the Nile that was a cultural center of Egypt before the pyramids, a cemetery was discovered, but it was unusual. Dr. Renee Friedman and her team were expecting a routine excavation, but what they found made them gasp in amazement. In the tombs, alongside human remains, there were unexpected guests: baboons, wild dogs, cats, and hippopotamuses. You don't usually find these animals in Egypt. The most amazing thing is that all these animals were well cared for. They received treatment, were fed, and even lived in captivity for a long time. According to Friedman, this could have been the world's first zoo exhibition. These animals were symbols of power and might, demonstrations of wealth and control over wildlife. This zoo is one of the most amazing discoveries in Egypt. Imagine how these ancient Egyptians cared for their wild pets, using them in religious rituals and demonstrating their power. A rare Chinese bottle. In the city of Xinjiang, China, archaeologists made a unique discovery during excavations at the Petroglyphs site. They found an unusual bottle that is over 7,000 years old. This artifact is the oldest item of its kind ever found in China. The bottle is a rare artifact with an unusual shape, a small neck, and a pointed bottom. These vessels are traditionally attributed to the Yangshao culture, one of the oldest in China. There are many theories about their purpose. Some suggest that the bottles were used for collecting or storing water, while others believe they might have been tools of ancient brewers. Other artifacts from the late Paleolithic were also found at the Petroglyphs site, including fragments of ostrich eggshell and red iron ore. Mythical figurines. In ancient Pompeii, archaeologists found 13 terracotta figurines possibly reflecting the myth of the goddess Cybele and Attis, known for their tragic love story, jealousy, and the idea of rebirth. These figurines were discovered in a house named after the fresco of Leda and the Swan, which depicts Zeus in the form of a swan and Leda. The figurines were found under a 2-meter layer of pumice, and scientists suggest that they may depict the ancient myth of Cybele and Attis, which originated in Phrygia, present-day Turkey, and was popular in ancient Greek and Roman culture. In this story, Cybele falls in love with the young Attis, but his love for another reveals her jealousy, which results in Attis going mad and losing his life under a pine tree. After that, Cybele asks the gods to turn Attis into a pine tree with violets, symbolizing eternal life and renewal. This myth is often interpreted as a symbol of the cyclical nature of life. The horoscope of a secret sect. In the Judean desert, a mysterious scroll was found, which was named the horoscope. It is one of the ancient texts associated with the secret teachings of the mysterious sect called the Children of Light. This unique manuscript attracted the attention of scholars with its content, touching on astrology and elements of mysticism that were practiced thousands of years ago. The scroll is written in Hebrew, but there are also symbols in Greek, Aramaic, and ancient Hebrew. A distinctive feature of the text is that it is written in reverse order, from right to left, which indicates its special significance for the sect. Dr. Oren Abelman, a specialist in the Judean desert scrolls, suggests that the text might have been used as instructions for the top leadership of this sect. The horoscope includes a unique belief system, claiming that a person's date of birth influences their zodiac sign, characteristics, and the balance between light and darkness in their soul. According to the scroll, each day of the year is associated with a certain degree of light or darkness, which in turn affects the inherent quality of good or evil in a person. The text also mentions a strict initiation process for new members of the Children of Light sect. The scroll was used to create individual horoscopes, where the date of birth determined the candidate's personal and physical characteristics. According to Dr. Abelman, this process was not just a ritual, but a test of the candidate's ability to fully accept the teachings and customs of the sect. He was buried together with a woman. Today we have something special for you. An amazing archaeological discovery straight from the heart of China. Imagine that archaeologists have unearthed a very old and complex horse saddle. This is possibly the oldest saddle ever found. The discovery was made in the distant Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China, in the arid Turpan Basin. It was found in the grave of a woman at the Yanghai Cemetery. She was probably a rider because the saddle was placed under her, as if she were sitting on it. The saddle remained intact there for about 2,700 years, thanks to the dry desert climate. It was made of 2 cushions of cowhide, filled with a mixture of straw, deer hair, and camel wool. Even for us living in the 21st century, that sounds pretty comfortable. doesn't it? Analysis showed that the saddle was made sometime between 724 and 396 BC, which makes it possibly the oldest saddle in history. This is important because we used to think that the first saddle was made by the Scythians, nomadic peoples who lived in the Eurasian steppes. Archaeologist from the University of Zurich, Patrick Wertmann, said that this discovery could shift the start date of saddle production. It is possible that the woman with whom they found the saddle belonged to the Subeshi culture, which inhabited this region about 3,000 years ago. Now we know that domesticated horses appeared about 6,000 years ago, but at first they were used for milk and meat. Horseback riding, as we know it today, probably began only about 1,000 years after that. The first riders used simple mats that they tied to the horse's back, as shown on Assyrian reliefs. And the oldest real saddle that we know of may have been created in Central Asia around the middle of the first millennium BC. Researchers suggest that the Subeshi culture may have had contact with the Scythians, since they had similar weapons and clothing. While the Scythians were nomads, the Subeshi people most likely practiced animal husbandry in the Turfan Basin. The Skull of Destiny. These crystal masterpieces appeared long before the beginning of civilization and are amazingly precisely carved without a single chip. And despite all the achievements of the 21st century, we are still far from such precision. Only primitive tools were used to create these skulls. Scientists have always been fascinated by the stories of the ancient Maya civilization. They lived 1,500 years ago and were remarkably advanced for their time. In 1930, during excavations in the Maya city of Labantun, one of these crystal skulls was found. It was discovered by archaeologist Frederick Mitchell Hedges. This find challenged scientists. How could the Maya create a skull with such precision using only primitive tools? This question remains unanswered even today, but the mysteries continue. In Belize, the remains of a human in jars about 14,000 years old were found. But how did an ancient Asian end up in America at all? This remains a mystery that we have yet to solve. The true reason the crystal skulls were created remains a mystery as well. A discovery in the Saudi Arabian desert. Long ago, long before the construction of the Egyptian pyramids and Stonehenge, people created amazing carved images of animals. In the Saudi Arabian desert, huge 3D images of camels and horses were found carved into rocks. At first, scientists thought they were 2,000 years old, but it turned out that they are even older than Stonehenge. All this happened during the Neolithic period, when there were trees and lakes around. People had not yet domesticated camels, and they might have even hunted them. The rock carving served as a kind of meeting place for ancient people. To create such images, people used flint tools, and they spent about 10 to 15 days on each one. The carved figures seemed to be layered on top of each other. This shows how complex their creation was. Scientists initially made a mistake about the age of these drawings, because dating stone carvings is not an easy task. However, after conducting various studies, they found out that the drawings are over 7,000 to 8,000 years old. This is much older than Stonehenge, which is 5,000 years old. Thus, these ancient drawings of camels and horses in the desert are some of the oldest large-scale three-dimensional images of animals in the world. The Gold of Tolosa, one of the most famous cursed objects in history, is considered to be an ancient treasure. 2,000 years ago, the ancient French city of Toulouse, known to the Romans as Tolosa, was home to the Gallic tribes of the Volcae. When the Gauls of Tolosa returned home after their campaign and raids in the eastern Mediterranean, they found that the Romans greeted them, enticed by the huge reserves of gold they had brought with them. It is said that this loot was cursed, and the Romans who took possession of the gold were never seen or heard from again. The treasure is rumored to still exist, with many saying it's at the bottom of a lake in southern France. However, treasure hunters fear the fate that might befall those who dare to try and recover it. The giant from the USA. At the end of the 19th century, deep in the dense forests of North America, near a small settlement that is now known as Black Hills, South Dakota, a discovery was made that shocked the scientific world of that time. A local forester, while walking along his usual routes, stumbled upon an unusually large stone protruding from the ground. He was surprised by its size and unusual shape and decided to invite a group of archaeologists from the nearest university. When the archaeologists began the excavation, they discovered that the stone was actually part of a giant stone sarcophagus. Inside, they found well-preserved remains of a person whose height exceeded 3 meters. This discovery sparked much debate among the scholars of that time, some of whom claimed that the find could shed light on the existence of ancient giants mentioned in the legends and myths of many cultures around the world. Despite significant interest from the scientific community, most of the information about the find and the object itself were lost over time. Only a couple of photographs taken during the excavation and a few entries in the personal diaries of the expedition members have survived to this day. These photographs, although not very clear due to the limited technology of that time, show the enormous size of the skeleton compared to the people who excavated it. The Black Hills area, rich in history and mysteries, still attracts researchers and adventure seekers who want to uncover the secrets of ancient civilizations and perhaps find lost archaeological artifacts. Thus, the story of the archaeological discovery of an ancient giant human being remains one of the most mysterious and unsolved chapters in the history of archaeology. Evil spirits in old bottles. For many centuries, superstitious people have believed in the supernatural and witchcraft. This is confirmed by artifacts that archaeologists often find in England. In clay and glass bottles, researchers find strange things: needles, nails, fishing hooks, fingernails, and even hair. These objects are called witch bottles. In ancient times in England, people believed that such a bottle could be a trap for evil spirits. They believed that hair and fingernails served as bait, while metal objects could catch the spirit. So far, more than 200 such artifacts have been found in Britain. They are also found in the United States, which makes sense, since North America was colonized by the British at one time. That's why the culture and history of these countries over the past centuries are similar. Most often, such bottles are found after old houses are demolished. The residents of the house would hide bottles with hair and nails near the fireplace. This way, they would catch all the evil spirits that tried to enter the house through the chimney. In fact, a lot of such bottles have been found. It's just that workers often didn't realize what they had discovered. Mostly they thought it was trash and sent it to the dump. And those workers who suspected what it could be would immediately get rid of the mystical artifacts which were believed to hold curses. Besides houses, similar artifacts were found in fields near old fire pits. Most often, people start to believe in curses, witches' curses, when the country is going through political turmoil. People experience fear and uncertainty about the future. By burying bottles in the fields, they tried to save themselves from drought. Superstitious people warn archaeologists to stop studying and breaking the cursed bottles. After all, by doing so, they might release an evil spirit. There are stories online where scientists died after studying such artifacts, but most likely this is either fiction or just a coincidence. After all, scientists and archaeologists are people just like us, so they can also get sick and die. Archaeologists were able to make the next discovery after a severe drought. The mystery of Arkham. Arkham, often called the Russian Stonehenge, is one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in Russia. Located in the steppes of the southern Urals, this megalithic complex impresses with its size and precise layout, which makes it similar to the famous Stonehenge in Great Britain, both in its astronomical functions and its geographic latitude. Arkham is a circular fortress with 2 concentric rings of walls and streets connecting dwellings, which were built with the ancient people's astronomical knowledge in mind. Studies have shown that the buildings in Arkham were constructed in such a way as to observe 18 astronomical events, including solstices and equinoxes. This indicates a high level of astronomical knowledge among the people who inhabited this region during the Bronze Age. Arkham not only attracts archaeologists, but is also of interest to researchers of anomalous phenomena. Unusual magnetic anomalies are recorded in the area of the complex, which sometimes affect the operation of electronic devices. These anomalies, as well as a number of other unexplained phenomena, give rise to various theories, including suggestions that Arkham could have been used or even created by extraterrestrial civilizations. In addition, the unique architecture and the complexity of the water supply system indicate a high level of social organization and engineering skill among its builders. These qualities make Arkham one of the key Bronze Age monuments in Eurasia. Graves from the time of Yaroslav the Wise. During archaeological excavations in the Kiev region of Ukraine, an ancient cemetery dating back to the 11th century was discovered. At this cemetery, the remains of men and women were found, accompanied by unique burial artifacts. The men were buried with battle axes, knives, and spearheads. The women's graves were adorned with bronze neck rings and other jewelry. In addition, near some of the deceased, wooden buckets and valuable items were found, including slate spindles, bracelets, penannular brooches, bronze belt rings, a necklace made of cowrie shells, and various weapons. Archaeologists say the burial's orientation and funeral customs resemble those of Western Baltic tribes. An artifact of an unknown civilization. How about a journey into the past, where archaeological discoveries challenge everything we know about our history? It all began in February 1961. 3 adventurers, Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell, went hiking on Mount Coso to add to their collection of antiquities. Imagine their surprise when, among the ordinary mountain rocks, they found a stone that simply couldn't have been there. A day later, Michael decided to work on the stone and discovered something incredible. Inside the stone was a ceramic cylinder, and inside the cylinder was a metal rod that, for some reason, reacted to a magnet. There were also fragments of fossilized shells and pebbles inside. The friends showed the find to a geologist they knew, who, after a detailed examination, said that, in his opinion, this stone was at least 500,000 years old. Can you imagine? 500,000 years? If that's the case, then our find rewrites the entire history of human development. After all, how can we explain metal elements inside such an ancient stone? Unfortunately, we don't have a detailed description of this research, nor do we have the geologist's name. But one thing we do know for sure, the stone was studied by the creationist Ron Cayley. He took an X-ray and discovered that the rod had a spring. So it's possible that this was some kind of ancient electrical mechanism. But who created it, and for what purpose? Cobra-shaped artifact. Archaeologists discovered a 4,000-year-old artifact in the form of a snake figurine, which was probably used in ancient rituals. The discovery was made by a group of researchers from National Tsinghua University in Taiwan, in a sand dune in the northwest of the island, in an area with a rich archaeological history. It is believed that this figurine, shaped like a snake, may have served as the handle of a ceramic vessel intended for ritual purposes. Associate Professor Honglin Chu of the Institute of Anthropology at Tsinghua noted that the figurine resembles a cobra, with its head raised and characteristic folds on its neck, making it a unique testament to ancient ritual practices. Snakes, being a common symbol in religion and mythology, were associated with the cycle of life and death, symbolizing creation and transition. Scientists suggest that the snake-shaped handle might have adorned a sacrificial vessel that was actively used in ritual ceremonies by ancient priests. Klerksdorp spheres. The Klerksdorp spheres, discovered in South Africa, amaze with their appearance, resembling cricket balls with lines along the equator. Their discovery in pyrophyllite deposits gave rise to the theory of alien intervention and ancient civilizations. In the 1980s, it was suggested that the spheres were created by a higher civilization. They became the subject of research not only by scientists, but also in pseudoscientific theories, some of which attributed an extraterrestrial origin to them. Geologist Bruce Cairncross in 2006 proposed a scientific explanation for the origin of the spheres found in the geological layer known as the Dominion Group. The Klerksdorp spheres are concretions formed from minerals that differ from the surrounding rock. Their spherical shape and lines are due to natural processes of deposition and the layering of the rock. The curator of the Klerksdorp Museum explained the phenomenon of the spontaneous rotation of the sphere as a natural physical effect caused by the unevenness of the surface and ground vibrations related to gold mining. Thus, the Klerksdorp spheres have become a subject of both scientific and cultural interest, demonstrating the complexity of interpreting archaeological finds. Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia. In a secluded corner of Australia on the shores of Brisbane Waters National Park, there are mysterious carved symbols known as the Gosford glyphs. These symbols, carved into rocks in the forest, spark endless debates among researchers and enthusiasts of ancient civilizations. The Gosford glyphs are a set of carved signs that, in their style, resemble ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. They depict various symbols, including figures of people, animals, and mystical creatures, as well as abstract signs and pictograms. These symbols are located on two large stone panels, and their content and origin are still a subject of debate. The similarity of the glyphs to Egyptian hieroglyphs gives rise to the theory of a possible historical contact between ancient Egypt and Australia. Some researchers believe that the glyphs could have been created by Egyptians who traveled to or were even shipwrecked on the Australian continent. A series of drawings tells the story of two princes who arrived from Egypt, one of whom died and was buried at this site. Translations and interpretations of these symbols differ, but many agree that the texts on the stones contain elements of ancient Egyptian rituals and beliefs. This may indicate that the ancient Egyptians actually explored or even temporarily settled in Australia. Some symbols, such as the UFO glyph, are interpreted as depictions of unusual objects or phenomena, which only fuels interest in this place. The theory of a connection between Egypt and Australia is also supported by Aboriginal legends and the discovery of artifacts in Egypt that could indicate contact between the continents. For example, the discovery of tobacco and cocaine in mummies. Plants native to the Americas suggest that ancient cultures may have had advanced navigation skills and engaged in intercontinental trade. For ancient travelers, Australia might have represented not only a new land to explore, but also a place of pilgrimage where they could gain new knowledge and resources. The exchange of knowledge and technology could have been mutual, with ancient Egyptians adopting unique survival methods and ways of understanding nature from the Aboriginal people. The Gosford glyphs confirm that human history may still hold many unexplored pages waiting to be discovered. A diadem made from human bones. Archaeologists in Altai have discovered ancient ornaments that are about 40,000 years old. They were found in Denisova Cave. One of the unique finds was a diadem made from the bone of a large mammal, presumably a human. Previously, such artifacts had not been found in Denisovan cultural sites. In addition to the diadem, archaeologists found beads and pendants of various shapes in the cave, made from stone, shells, animal bones and teeth, and mammoth tusks. Denisova Cave is a famous archaeological site where, from the 1970s to 1984, numerous artifacts and remains of ancient animals were discovered. The remains of the Denisovans, a type of human related to Neanderthals, were also found there. The Denisovans split from the common lineage with Neanderthals about 640,000 years ago. Interestingly, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and Cro-Magnons, the ancestors of modern humans, coexisted and even interbred. Denisovan DNA is present in the genomes of many peoples of Asia and Oceania. What other secrets do you think Denisova Cave holds? Write your thoughts in the comments below the video. Lost history. Recently, a long-awaited fragment of the famous Dead Sea Scrolls was found, dating back 2,700 years. These scrolls are part of ancient manuscripts discovered near the Dead Sea between 1946 and 1956, including 972 documents in various ancient languages. A third of them contain biblical texts, while the rest are non-biblical, relating to the era of the Second Temple. Interestingly, one of the three rare fragments dated to the period of the First Temple, which was thought to be lost, was discovered in the United States in the state of Montana. The owner of this ancient artifact said that his mother bought the papyrus as a souvenir in Jerusalem in 1965. This fragment is of interest to scholars because it contains only 4 lines in ancient Hebrew, beginning with the words, "To Ishmael they sent." Researchers suggest that this was an instruction for the recipient. The name Ishmael in biblical history is associated with Abraham's firstborn and his maidservant Hagar, and it is quite popular. After a detailed analysis, experts confirmed the authenticity of the scroll and its age. Now, this historical artifact is in Israel, in the care of the Antiquities Authority. However, many similar scrolls are still hidden in private collections around the world. Stonehenge in the Netherlands. Archaeologists from Holland have discovered a treasure that is being called the Stonehenge of the Netherlands. And this is not just some ordinary structure, it is 4,000 years old. In the center of the Netherlands, in the city of Tiel, scientists have discovered a sanctuary that includes burial mounds and ditches. Important artifacts have been found here: animal skeletons, human skulls, and even a bronze spearhead. The oldest of them date back to 2500 BC. In just one burial mound, archaeologists discovered about 60 remains of men, women, and children, and in 20 more burial mounds at the neighboring cemetery. Researchers believe that the sanctuary was designed so that sunlight would pass directly through it on the longest and shortest days of the year. Stonehenge functioned in exactly the same way. This solar calendar helped ancient people determine important events, such as religious holidays and harvest days. But the most sensational find was in the oldest part of the burial mound. There, they discovered the remains of a woman buried with a bead made of green coral glass. This is the oldest bead ever found in the Netherlands. Analysis showed that it came all the way from Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. This means that people here, more than 4,000 years ago, could have been in contact with people as far as 5,000 kilometers away. Scientists spent 6 years excavating and analyzing the finds. In total, more than 1 million artifacts from different eras were discovered, from the Stone Age to the Middle Ages. Soon, some of them will be exhibited in the museums of Tilia and in the Dutch National Museum of Antiquities. The inscription from the necropolis of Sheikh Abd el-Qurna. Sheikh Abd el-Qurna is an ancient necropolis in Luxor, Egypt. It is known for its tombs with inscriptions meant to ward off robbers. The National Museum of Scotland houses a unique slab with one of these texts. It says, "Pass by and do not touch even the smallest stone here. If you come across this stone and do not mistake it, know that the gods resting in the mountains grow stronger every day, even though their stones are being taken away." Written in hieratic script, this warning says that moving even a single stone from the tomb will bring the wrath of the gods and the spirits of the deceased. However, considering that the slab was moved to Scotland without any visible consequences, it seems that the ancient warning can be taken lightly. Ancient blueprints. Now we will embark on an exciting journey into the past, where we will uncover the mystery of ancient blueprints that are an astonishing 8,000 years old. Imagine a huge structure that can only be seen from the air. It's not just stones and a pile of sand. No, these are the great creations of ancient people whose design still makes us wonder. Scientists call them desert kites. According to one theory, these huge structures could have served as hunting traps for ancient people. But what if we have the key to understanding their true purpose? Meet, my friends, the rock carvings found in Jordan and Saudi Arabia. They are an astonishing 8,000 years old. These lines and stars decorate the rocks and megaliths that are part of our desert kites. But what if these drawings are not just decorations, but actual blueprints? Blueprints that ancient hunters used to build their huge traps, stretching for several kilometers. This is the hypothesis that scientists are proposing. They compared the blueprints engraved on the rocks with the shape and size of known desert kites. One of these blueprints is found on an 80-centimeter limestone monolith from Jordan. It has long lines engraved on it, ending in an 8-pointed star. It is believed that hunters drove their prey into such a star. And the second piece of evidence was found in Saudi Arabia. Here, on a sandstone boulder measuring 2 by 4 meters, blueprints of 2 desert kites were both found. And they all have something in common: star-shaped enclosures and pit traps at the ends of the star's rays. An ancient artifact weighing 3 tons. A farmer from the Spanish town of Baena, while simply uprooting an olive tree, stumbled upon a huge stone object. In the photo published by the local city hall, it looks like a large round stone with 3 grooves on the sides. It turned out to be an ancient Roman millstone, part of a special device for pressing olives and producing olive oil. This remarkable device is called a trapedum. It was invented back in Greece and then used throughout the Roman Empire. The trapedum works like this. Workers would crush the olives using the second part, which fit perfectly into the round groove and was rotated with a long stick. The stone mill, about 90 centimeters high and 1.2 meters in diameter, weighs as much as 3 tons. Archaeologist Jose Antonio Moreno estimated the millstone to be 2,000 years old, and suggested that this monumental artifact proves that olives were cultivated in Baena as far back as ancient Roman times. Today, Baena is also known for its olive oil. Olive groves surround the entire city, and the local history is reflected in the Museum of Olive Groves and Oil. So this stone millstone will soon be moved to the city's historical museum. Astronomical Compendium of 1550. Here's an interesting fact from archaeology. There used to be devices called astronomical compendiums. These were small instruments for complex calculations, packed into a single box. Astronomical compendiums were quite expensive and were a sign of their owner's wealth. One of these compendiums, made around 1550 in Augsburg, is made of gilded brass. Such a compendium included a variety of instruments, including a nocturnal for determining the time at night by the stars, lists of latitudes, a magnetic compass, a list of ports and harbors, a perpetual calendar, and a lunar indicator. With the help of an astronomical compendium, one could determine the current time, the tide height in ports, and perform calendar calculations. All of this was so amazing and useful that it's hard to imagine today how such complex functions could fit into such a small device. Graphite button. Deep in northern China, archaeologists uncovered the secrets of the Shiyu site, discovered in 1963. Unique artifacts were found here, dating back about 45,000 years, which testify to the early stage of the Upper Paleolithic. This is one of the oldest pieces of evidence of the presence of a modern-type human in China. Researchers have long debated when Homo sapiens first appeared in these territories. The remains from Tianyuan Cave, discovered in 2003, confirmed that this happened about 40,000 years ago. This data is consistent with the findings in Shiyu. An important part of the discovery was a collection of artifacts, including a unique graphite button that may have been used to fasten clothing or a bag. An international team of scientists conducted a thorough study of the artifacts. During the work, traces of the use of stone tools on animal bones were discovered, indicating human activity from that era. This discovery confirms the hypothesis about the migration of anatomically modern humans to this region. Pyramids. A group of researchers discovered nothing less than 3 pyramids in Antarctica, and it seems they were not created by nature, but by our distant ancestors. Antarctica is now the edge of the world, covered in ice. But once it was an oasis full of life where even dinosaurs roamed, and our discoveries there are proof of this. A total of 8 researchers from America and Europe went on the expedition. They discovered 2 pyramids 16 kilometers from the shore, and a third one right by the water. The question arises, why don't we hear about this in the news? Many claim that this information is being hidden so that we are not distracted from our usual understanding of the past. And what will we see when the glaciers melt? Is it possible that, besides the pyramids, another sphinx is hidden under the ice? What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. A panda in the tomb. The great Chinese Emperor Wen, who lived 2,200 years ago, passed away. And here's what's interesting. Next to his final resting place, archaeologists discovered the remains of a giant panda and a tapir. Until that moment, scientists didn't even suspect that tapirs could have lived in China during the emperor's reign. And many other animals were also found near the tomb, from mighty tigers to peacocks and golden snub-nosed monkeys. Many of them, unfortunately, are now endangered. The Benben Stone. This amazing artifact inspired the Egyptians to create 2 of their greatest architectural achievements, pyramids and obelisks. Imagine a sacred stone in the shape of a pyramid, called the Benben Stone or Pyramidion. Every day the first rays of the rising sun fell upon it, granting everyone around strength and enlightenment. This stone was kept in the religious center of Egypt, Heliopolis, where, according to the ancients, the creation of the world began. However, at some unknown point in history, the original Benben stone disappeared. This stone was associated not only with the gods Atum and Ra, it was linked to the Bennu bird, which, according to myth, cried out on the Ben stone to announce the start of the world's creation. Thanks to these connections, the Ben stone became an integral part of the solar temples of ancient Egypt. The Egyptians covered it with gold, and the stone reflected the sun's rays, filling the temples with light. This stone became the model for obelisk and pyramid tops, which we still see today in museums worldwide. A flute made from human bone. In Moscow, customs officers intercepted an unusual package being sent to Germany, which contained a Buddhist ritual flute called a canling or ganlin, made from human bone and with a case made from human skin. This eerie item was discovered during an X-ray scan. The flute, wrapped in newspaper, had a hollow shape with a trident and a maker's mark. The sender from Moscow stated in the documents that he was sending a musical instrument, without specifying the materials it was made from. The package was being sent to the city of Nurtingen. The examination showed that the flute was made recently and is not a cultural asset. The item was given to the Ministry of Internal Affairs for further examination, emphasizing the unusual and grim nature of the find. The master of the terracotta army. Half a century ago, a unique discovery was made. The mausoleum of the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huangdi, was found. After years of research, the ruler's final resting place has remained untouched. Scientists do not dare to disturb his peace. In 1974, when farmer Yang Jifa and his brothers were digging a well at the foot of Mount Lishan, his shovel hit something hard. That something turned out to be a fragment of a clay statue. This discovery led to an entire collection of artifacts. But the farmer was only able to receive a symbolic 10 yuan for his discovery. The archaeologists who took on the case soon discovered the terracotta army, which is believed to be the guardians of the great Qin Shi Huangdi. But the mystery of the tomb remains unsolved, as legends say it is filled with mercury, which the emperor considered a magical elixir. Modern research has confirmed a high concentration of this element in the burial area. Today, scientists are making plans on how to bypass ancient traps and get inside the tomb. They are considering the possibility of using muons, subatomic particles that would allow them to see what is hidden deep inside the tomb without disturbing its peace. Ancient Jewish curses. On Mount Ebal in Israel, archaeologist Adam Zertal discovered a lead tablet dating back to the middle of the 13th century BC. Recently, an international team of scientists, including Czech specialists, uncovered the secret of this tablet using X-ray tomography. Daniel Vavrik, a participant in the research, said that the text was written on a lead sheet, which was then folded to hide its contents. The size of the tablet is extremely small, only 2 centimeters in length and width. Previously, similar finds were opened mechanically, but this led to their damage. The new method made it possible to decipher the text without harming the artifact. Researchers have determined that the hidden text is written in Proto-Hebrew and dates to roughly the period between 1400 and 1200 BCE, which makes it the oldest known text in this language. The text contained ancient curses. One of them said, "You are cursed by the god Yahweh." This discovery is of great value to history and archaeology, proving the deep roots of written culture in this region. Traces of the gods. In the Ain Ain Dara temple in northern Syria, in the arid lands, there is a unique archaeological site, the Ain Ain Dara complex, a complex of structures surrounding a majestic central temple, unmatched in its features. One of its remarkable features is the giant footprints on the threshold, each measuring up to 1 meter in length, clearly indicating their non-human origin. According to local residents, the footprints were left by a deity, and the temple resembles the biblical description of Solomon's temple. The temple, dating back to the Iron Age, Syro-Hittite kingdoms that emerged after the collapse of the Hittite Empire around 1180 BC and existed until 700 BC, was discovered in 1955. Archaeological excavations have made it possible to study its structure and decorations in more detail. The temple stands on a mound and is surrounded by a gallery. Its foundation is made up of massive basalt blocks. The walls are decorated with intricate carvings depicting geometric patterns and mythical animals, which testifies to the high skill of its creators. The entrance is guarded by lions and sphinxes carved from stone. Nevertheless, it is still unknown to whom exactly the temple was dedicated. It has been suggested that it may have been dedicated to the goddess Ishtar, but there is no definitive evidence. The giant human footprints, not only confirmed the connection of the structure with ancient myths and deities, but also emphasize its cultural, religious, and mystical significance. However, in 2018, a huge part of this temple was destroyed by airstrikes. The Silence of Gold. New discoveries continue to be made in Egypt. This time, a standard find for this region was discovered, an ancient tomb with mummies. But what was found in the mouth did surprise archaeologists a bit. These were golden tongues. During mummification, the tongues were removed and replaced with golden ones. And all this was done so that the deceased could speak with Osiris, the lord of the underworld and judge of the dead, in the afterlife. He is one of the most important gods of ancient Egypt. Archaeologists have not yet announced the exact number of mummies discovered, or how many of them had golden tongues. The excavations were carried out in a newly studied area of the Qaisana archaeological complex, which includes ancient tombs from different periods. The complex consists of 3 levels, and each of them demonstrates different burial customs. Tongues wrapped in gold foil were recently found in Taposiris Magna, an Egyptian burial site that is 2,000 years old. A couple of years ago, archaeologists reported the burial of a man and a woman who were high-ranking people in ancient Egypt, and most likely they even communicated with Cleopatra. Unfortunately, scientists were not able to study their mummies thoroughly. Water had seeped into their tomb. However, the gold leaf that covered their entire bodies managed to survive. This confirms the fact that they belonged to the upper class. Dinosaur tracks in rock art. The scientific community encountered an unusual discovery in the northeast of Brazil, where they found a unique coexistence of dinosaur tracks and ancient petroglyphs. In the state of Paraíba, in the Serrote do Letreiro area, researchers discovered fossilized footprints of theropods, sauropods, and iguanodonts from the early Cretaceous period, as well as pre-colonial rock art. This unique site combines ancient tracks and art, creating a symbolic connection between painting and fossils. Previously, petroglyphs were also found near dinosaur tracks, but never in such close interaction. Researchers believe that ancient artists deliberately chose locations near ancient tracks for their drawings. This highlights a deep perception of the connection between art and natural phenomena. Petroglyphs, which previously received less attention, are now being studied together with ancient tracks. The rock paintings depict circular figures with radial lines and other geometric motifs, the meaning of which remains a mystery for now. Among the drawings, there are images resembling nets, stars, and snakes, indicating a diversity of styles and possibly the presence of multiple authors. A rock record spanning 100 generations. Scientists from Argentina have discovered that the ancient rock paintings in Patagonia are significantly older than previously thought. Using radiocarbon analysis, it was found that the cave images date back to around 6,200 BC during the late Holocene era, predating previous estimates by thousands of years. In this underground gallery, 895 unique images have been found, grouped into 446 thematic categories. The study showed that the cave was used as a place for passing on knowledge between hundreds of generations of hunter-gatherers who overcame the challenges of the harsh climate of ancient Patagonia by exchanging information through rock paintings. The oldest painting. In Iceland, archaeologists discovered a stone with a carved Viking ship. And the most amazing thing about this is that it might be the oldest image in the history of Iceland. It's worth noting that although carved ships are found in Scandinavian culture, such a discovery in Iceland is the first of its kind. According to archaeologist Bjarni Einarsson, this could have been the first illustration in the country's history. Work at the excavation site in Stor began in 2015. Archaeologists returned here every summer to continue the excavations. At first, the researchers focused on the longhouse from the settlement era, but this only opened the door to the rich history of this place. How about the fact that 92 beads and 29 silver items were found in this longhouse, including coins from Rome and the Middle East? They found an even older longhouse here, which archaeologists estimate was built around the year 800 AD. That's 75 years before Iceland became permanently settled. No remains of domestic animals were found inside, which suggests it had a special purpose. Bjarni Einarsson suggests that it could have been a seasonal hunting base, from which the Vikings set out in search of valuables, including walrus ivory. Elongated skulls. Archaeologists made a stunning discovery in Antarctica, the remains of people with elongated skulls. Even more interesting, similar elongated skulls have been found all over the world, in Peru, Egypt, Russia, the United States, and even in Europe. Scientists have found out that people intentionally deformed their children's skulls right from birth. But here's the mystery. Different peoples did this, living vast distances apart from each other, possibly even without any contact between them. And the question remains, why? Maybe people were trying to gain superhuman abilities or emphasize their status. Or did they want to look like gods? Maybe it was a trend, like tattoos or piercings today? Creepy. But even now, in some tribes of South America, this tradition still exists. Mysterious footprints. In 1978, footprints were found in Tanzania, dated to a full 3.7 million years ago, which became one of the first pieces of evidence of upright walking in human ancestors. The discovery sparked a wave of interest in the history of hominin evolution. Near this site, other footprints were found, which some scientists mistakenly thought belonged to bears. A new study by Ellison McNutt's team from Ohio University disproved this theory. The researchers returned to analyzing the footprints found at the Laetoli Site A, which is known for its hominin trackways. It was assumed that the footprints belonged to Australopithecus afarensis, which includes the famous skeleton Lucy. An international team of scientists decided to solve the mystery by re-excavating and studying the 5 footprints. A comparison with the footprints of bears, chimpanzees, and humans showed that it was unlikely bears could have left such tracks, given their way of moving and stride width. The researchers observed the behavior of bears that were lured with maple syrup or applesauce into walking on their hind legs. The observations showed that bears rarely move in this way. This makes the theory that the tracks were made by bears unlikely. The analysis of the chimpanzee tracks revealed similarities, but the morphology of the tracks indicated that they were left by a different species of Australopithecus, not Australopithecus afarensis. Thus, the study confirmed that the mysterious tracks at Laetoli belonged to human ancestors. An iPhone was noticed in the painting. What the researchers discovered next raises a lot of questions. I will tell you about a mysterious 19th century painting that, according to rumors, depicts an iPhone. The painting is called The Betrothal of Burns and Mary. It features the famous Scottish poet Robert Burns and his beloved Mary Campbell. And here's what's interesting. In the hands of both characters, you can notice a strange dark-colored rectangle with rounded corners. This is exactly what sparked a wave of discussions on the internet. After all, in shape and size, this object looks very much like one of the first iPhones. But here's the catch, friends. The painting was created in 1882, which is 125 years before the first iPhone appeared. Now, art lovers all over the world are trying to solve this mystery. Many suggest that it could be time travel. Others claim that it could simply be a prayer book, which people often carried with them in those days. In any case, we know one thing. People's love for mysteries and secrets never fades. And this is not the first painting where a smartphone has been noticed. Let's recall the painting Mr. Pinchen and the Settlement of Springfield, painted by Umberto Romano in 1937. There, too, an object resembling a mobile phone appeared. But what it actually is, a mirror, a knife, a prayer book, or a smartphone after all, is still unknown. In any case, this leaves room for your assumptions and imagination. Write in the comments what you think. The ancient Egyptian scam. Archaeologists found an interesting document in Egypt about a marriage scam. This papyrus is more than 2,000 years old. Just imagine, we can now find out what kinds of scams men were capable of pulling on their lovers in ancient Egypt. This manuscript is a complaint from the deceived bride Philomena to King Ptolemy, asking him to punish Numenius, who promised to marry her but didn't. As stated in the text, instead of marrying her, the man simply took his former beloved's dowry for himself. As you can see, the history of marriage scams has very deep roots. Even back then, people used legal tricks and engaged in fraud. For now, we only know of one such documented case. And how many of them happened in those years, we can only guess. The document was found in the necropolis of Deir el-Banat in the Fayum Oasis. For almost 1,000 years, people were buried here from the 4th century BC until the Byzantine period in Egypt. The manuscript ended up in the burial as material for ritual decorations. The thing is, not everyone could afford to put precious stones and metals in the burial. That's why the ancient Egyptians resorted to a trick. They made necklaces out of pressed pieces of papyrus, which they then used as offerings for the afterlife. They usually took papyrus that had already been written on. The next find will also be connected to a mass burial. The faceless woman's skeleton. In Germany, archaeologists discovered a mysterious 9th century burial. The man was lying there unharmed, but the wife's facial bones were missing, and no burial items were found next to her. The excavation was carried out near Eisleben, at the site where the royal palace of Helfta once stood. The woman was 1.55 meters tall, but her skeleton had a defect. Her face was hollowed out. The man apparently held an important position. He may have been a high-ranking official or a military man, as indicated by the items found with him: a knife, a belt, and parts of an official staff. At the same time, no accessories were found with the woman, which was especially interesting to the researchers. Felix Berman from Saxony-Anhalt suggested that the woman might have been a Christian, while her husband still adhered to pagan traditions. This could explain the absence of burial items, as the Christian tradition rejected earthly ornaments after death. An ancient sword in perfect condition. Archaeologists found a real bronze sword in the waters of the Danube River, a sword that is already about 3,000 years old. At first, the scientists thought it was a fake, but after examining the sword, they were amazed. It is truly an authentic ancient sword. And what's really cool is that it's in perfect condition. Let's imagine 3,000 years ago, different tribes lived in Germany. People lived in wooden houses near rivers, practiced agriculture, hunted, and warfare was common. And during one of these wars, this sword was lost. The sword was found near the city of Nördlingen in a grave where 3 people were buried. It seems that it was a family, a man, a woman, and a little boy. They were buried with other bronze items, but the sword turned out to be the most remarkable among them. According to scientists, this sword was made at the end of the 14th century BC, and it was not just an ordinary sword, but a skillfully crafted one, with an octagonal hilt and a broad blade. And do you know what swords were made of in the Bronze Age? That's right, bronze. And here's why that was cool. First, bronze doesn't rust. Second, it's easy to shape. And third, bronze swords were very strong, at least until blacksmiths started using iron. That's why iron eventually replaced bronze. Iron was stronger, iron ore was easier to find, and an iron sword could be made even sharper. And that's when, thanks to iron, swords became even stronger, sharper, and cheaper. But we're lucky that this sword was made of bronze, otherwise we wouldn't be able to see it today. Crocodile stone. Now let's head to the amazing mountains of Laos, where the ancient ruins of the Wat Phu Temple are hidden. Among the ruins of this temple, archaeologists found something very strange, a huge boulder with carvings that resemble a crocodile. But what's even more interesting is that there's a hollow in it, the size of a person. Many people believe that this stone was used as an altar for human sacrifices. If that's true, then such rituals could have taken place back in the days of Chenla, the ancient empire that ruled these lands. According to legends, every year, when the frangipani birds began to fall, the king of Chenla would pray to the mountain spirits and offer rice wine to the 2 most beautiful girls. Then the girls were sacrificed to the gods. Such sacrifices are described in the 6th century history of Sweden. All this time, the community far from the big cities has preserved this story, which suggests its possible authenticity. However, it is unknown what role the crocodile rock played in these rituals. This unique carving makes it even more mysterious. Nothing like this has been found in the ruins of Laos or Cambus. And here is the question. If the crocodile rock was not used for sacrifices, then what was it for? The tomb of Kharkuf. Kharkuf, the famous Egyptian traveler of the 6th dynasty, also followed the fashion of placing curses on tombs. In his final resting place, he left an extensive inscription in which he spoke about his travels and his knowledge of the afterlife. But along with this, he included in the inscription a strict warning for anyone who would dare to disturb his eternal rest. The curse goes like this: "I will seize you like a wild bird and bring you to judgment, and you will be condemned by the greatest God." To a modern person, such words might not seem very frightening, but for the ancient Egyptians, this was a real curse that was better left alone. In the era of the pyramids, being cursed by the great god was considered one of the most terrifying curses. Stone spheroids that are 1.4 million years old. In the 1960s, archaeologists in northern Israel discovered an unusual find. Almost 600 stone balls in an area dated to 1.5 million years ago. A recent analysis of 150 of these balls showed that they were created by our ancestors. This discovery suggests that earlier hominids aimed to create symmetry and were interested in craftsmanship. The use of modern technology made it possible to accurately measure the angles and curvature of the ball's surfaces, as well as determine their center of mass. The analysis showed that the spheroids represent a complex technology, indicating the high cognitive abilities and skills of early Acheulean people. They may seem like ordinary stone balls, but they can tell us so much about our ancestors. 1.5 million years ago, our ancestors had completely different ways of thinking and needs, so creating such artifacts in those days was considered a huge achievement. The features of the Antikythera mechanism. In the depths of the sea near the island of Antikythera, in 1901, a group of Greek divers came across one of the most mysterious discoveries in the history of archaeology. They discovered a sunken ship that was carrying treasures from the ancient world, including statues, jewelry, and most remarkably, a complex mechanism, oxidized and covered with marine deposits. This object, which became known as the Antikythera mechanism, is shrouded in mysteries of the past and today is the subject of numerous studies. The mechanism, made of bronze, is a complex system of gears and levers, consisting of 30 mechanical components housed in a wooden frame. The structure of the mechanism testifies to the high level of knowledge and technical skills of its creators. This artifact demonstrates remarkable mastery of metalworking and knowledge in the field of astronomy. 3D scanning and X-ray tomography allowed scientists to delve deeper into the structure of the mechanism and understand how it works. These methods made it possible to study every detail of the device without risking any damage to it. Thanks to these technologies, it was discovered that the mechanism includes a series of gears capable of predicting the astronomical positions and ephemerides of the sun, the moon, as well as other planets of the solar system. The main function of the Antikythera mechanism was astronomical modeling. The device was used to calculate and predict solar and lunar eclipses, as well as to determine the phases of the moon and possibly the positions of the planets. This discovery greatly expanded our understanding of how advanced technology and scientific knowledge were in ancient Greece, confirming their ability to create complex computational devices many centuries before the invention of digital computers. Nevertheless, many mysteries of the Antikythera mechanism remain unsolved. For example, the exact purpose of some components and scales, as well as the complete list of its functions, are still not fully understood. In addition, it remains unclear who exactly created this mechanism and whether other similar devices were made that could provide additional information about the technological achievements of that era. The Antikythera mechanism remains a symbol of ancient Greek engineering, reminding us that the history of technology and science still has many unexplored chapters. The oldest bead in America. An archaeological team from the University of Wyoming found the oldest known bead in North America at the ancient Mammoth site of La Prele in Converse County, USA. At this site, traces of an ancient hunting camp and the remains of a young Columbian mammoth have been preserved. Research, the results of which were published in the journal Scientific Reports, revealed the discovery of a Clovis bead made from hairbone. This item, 7 mm long and 1.6 cm wide, was likely used as a decorative clothing ornament. The bead is polished, has smooth edges, and is covered with red ochre. There are grooves on the outer side of the bead, indicating that it was made using stones or teeth. To determine the origin of the bone material, Scientists from the University of Washington conducted a mass spectrometric analysis of collagen. The analysis confirmed that the material was either a metapodial bone or a proximal phalanx of a hair. This discovery became the first convincing evidence of the use of hair during the Clovis era, dated to about 12,000 years ago. The Clovis era is known for the discovery of distinctive stone tools, named after the Clovis archaeological site in New Mexico. DNA from a time capsule. Recently, scientists extracted DNA from a clay brick that is as much as 2,900 years old. This brick comes directly from the palace of King Ashur-nasir-pal II in the ancient city of Kalhu, located in present-day Iraq. They found 34 groups of plants, including birch and cabbage. This brick became a real-time capsule of biodiversity. It's important to note that the brick was made from clay, straw, and animal dung, and it was never fired, which is why the DNA was preserved. This unique brick is now kept in the National Museum of Denmark. The new methods used on the brick open up the possibility of studying the DNA of animals and insects in the same way. Clay materials are found at almost every archaeological site, making them a goldmine for research. And the best source of valuable and interesting information about the ancient world is our channel. So subscribe and leave kind comments under the video and I'll try to reply to them. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitles by Dima Torzak.